Hi everyone, Miss Martin here. First I wanted to apologize that we weren't able to meet for any live chats this week. I had meetings all day on Wednesday, so this is your assignment for Wednesday, May 20th. So our goal, I can explain how decomposers break down dead plants and animals. Let's first review Monday's lesson. So predict, where do you think all the leaves go after they've fallen from trees? I'm really interested to see all the different responses to this one. I'm sure we've seen some people say that they've blown away or something like that. What are the white threads that grow on leaves? They're actually the roots of mushrooms. What is a decomposer? It's an organism that breaks down dead plants and animals. What is left behind after mushrooms break down dead leaves? Soil. So dirt, soil, nutrients, those are all the things that are left behind once mushrooms have done their job. What would happen if there were no mushrooms? All dead plants and animals would pile up. And predict, what do you think makes your food decompose? The big thing you've seen, and I'm sure you've seen before, is mold, which is considered a decomposer. So let's talk about decomposers. Decomposers feed on the remains of other animals. Decomposers play an important role in the ecosystem. By digesting dead matter, they put nutrients back into the soil, making them available to producers. So far we're just looking at mushrooms in our experiment this week. However, decomposers come in a lot of other types. We have worms, which we'll look at next week. Insects, like flies, we've seen those before, landing on food. And bacteria. Different types of bacteria can help to break down dead things. Different types of decomposers, they eat dead stuff, so dead plants, dead animals, also animal waste. There's many types, bacteria, fungi, and animals. So what you see here is a little food chain. We have the producer, which uses the energy from the sun to make its leaves, bark, trees, all that stuff. Primary consumer eats the producer. Secondary consumer eats the primary consumer. And tertiary consumer eats that snake, that secondary consumer. Once all these creatures, including the plant, die, decomposers go to work. And they start to break down the material that's in each of those animals and puts it back into the soil. So, I started our experiment, and I'm also posting our first update of our mold terrarium experiment. Our big question is, which conditions grow mold the best? So we have hot and dry conditions, cold and wet, warm and wet, cold and dry. Then I also added one with salt, because salt used to be used as a preservative, and then one with saliva where I actually licked it, which was kind of weird, but in the end it was all fresh food, so it's not a big deal. So I'm curious to see if there's bacteria on my tongue that might break down this stuff more. So this will take 10 days. Each day I'm going to post a new ed puzzle, short one, probably about a minute long, that just shows the progress, and we'll try to see what type of conditions mold likes to grow the best. I have a feeling we're going to be leaning toward anything that's warm, like this one up here. That's the hot and wet one. And anything that's moist, because all creatures, from plants to fungus, they need water to survive. So I feel like this one's going to end up being our very best version of the experiment. And I think the cold and dry one, the one that's kept in the fridge, that one will probably be the worst. But only time will tell. So, before we wait 10 days, I figured I'd show you a sped up version. This is a bowl of fruit. It took 40 days to rot. So let's see what happens. 74 days, my bad. One picture. So it's all sped up. Okay, you can see the fruit's already starting to crumble down. You can see it's making this black stuff here on the bottom. That looks a lot like soil to me. Alright, if you notice, down by the green apples, you see little flecks of things floating around. Those would be the flies that are eating up those apples and breaking it down. Now the flies are eating lots of things. So the banana peel just rotted away. See, it's all turning to that darker color like soil. Now remember, a lot of these types of plants and fruit have seeds in them. So watch what happens. So if you look at that potato, there is something green poking out of it. And there's another one. So at first I thought these were mushrooms, but in fact, these are sprouts. So the dirt and all the nutrients that are left behind are giving these plants new life. The seeds are growing, and you have new greenery that's growing here, new producers, and it completes the cycle. Alright, so just to review. That video was, that should say 74 days of the fruit rotting on time-lapse. You can see flies eating the fruit at the bottom. The rotting fruit turns into soil and nutrients underneath. If we were able to look on the side of the bowl, you would probably see a lot of dirt. And you can see new plants growing up from the soil at the end of the video. So now we know that there's an additional link in our food chain. We had our producers, the plants that we talked about last week. Then we had the creatures that eat each other, all the way down. And then eventually all these creatures die, and when they die, the decomposers break them down. The energy is never lost in this kind of cycle. It just keeps on transferring from one to the other. Alright, when we get done here, I want you to answer the 3 questions at the end of the video about decomposers, and then hit the turn in button. If you guys don't join me for our Google Meet for any other additional questions on Thursday, then I hope you have a really, really nice Memorial Day weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Alright, good work, guys.